everybody, and welcome to Read Spider-Man Crawl Space Edition. Check us out at the SpiderManCrawlspace.com. Well, everybody, it's of course time for part 6 of Death Spiral and Venom 256 by Al Ewing and of course Carlos Gomez. An issue hard to believe is actually an issue we've been waiting for a couple of years for, and I will do my best to go on to that because it is a pro, though it's something sadly, talking about in this day and age. But let's actually get to the first pros. First of all, I actually do really enjoy this issue. This really does feel like there's no more messing around. There's a really big thing with Torment going after Dylan here, and of course, what ends up part. And one thing is, we find out Torment is actually pretty ingenious. I love the fact that he's able to take on Carnage and Venom and Spider-Man, not just with, of course, using what's left of the Shocker's gauntlets, but actually outsmarting them with the way he does it and the fact that how he's got this plan going, and it works pretty well here. I mean, Torment actually comes across as a very credible threat to take on three of the main characters like this, and the fact, despite that one is marked off for distraction, thanks to Dylan on the run here, it really does show that he is a smart planner and can think on his feet. But let's get into the biggest thing here, everybody. This issue marks the death of Paul Rabin. Yes, after all these years, he does die, sacrificing himself technically to try to save Dylan. And the fact is, he is killed. And Spiral even says too, like, you have no family, you have no ending, no beginning. You're just there. So the fact that you actually protected Dylan is noble, but it's not really part. And of course, the biggest thing is because Al Ewing does basically what a lot of writers, even Joe Kelly has said themselves to the current animated Spider-Man, that Paul really had no point. He even says as he died, I never really matter. Yes, it's shocking. Yes, it's sad. And it does give the pieces that works everything with Mary Jane and Peter and even Eddie Brock. But the thing is, this is an editorial mandate character that was brought in to basically keep Peter Parker and Mary Jane apart. And no matter how many kept trying to get rid of Paul, they kept them going. They kept them going. They kept them going. And the sad thing is, when you have a character like that that is that hated, and the fact is, what even despite the fact he does do a noble thing to try to save Dylan, it's the fact that so many readers are actually pretty happy this finally happened. So it's definitely something that is funny, and it shouldn't be as positive thing, but it really shows you how much of a hated character he has been these last, hard to believe, almost 5 years since this storyline was popped into who Paul was from this alternate universe, thanks to Wineb and Rabin. So just gonna leave it at that. Cons issue. Oh look, the Omnitrix is back. It's Dylan 10, everybody, and shows how much of a useless device this is. I mean, like how he says, like, "Hey, you're nearly fixed. Take that thing off." It's like, why is it still around? That thing basically is the reason why Mary Jane and Venom are bonded together. It's been nothing but a haphazard. And as we find out, Dylan gets real things from being turned into a living cactus to having only powers of glass, which of course doesn't work when Torrent shatters it and so forth. Another thing is, I mean, we get the whole thing is, I mean, honestly, with Eddie Brock as Carnage and him trying to save Dylan, and the fact that, as we know, Torment has been targeting the entire Brock line. And of course, Dylan is for the Spiral, which we still don't know quite how it works. But the one thing is, this really puts Dylan in a weird thing. Like or hate the character, there's been so much around Dylan the last several years in the pages of Venom and Carnage and even Spider-Man here, is we feel that it is. I mean, honestly, I have no problem with Dylan. I actually think he's a very interesting character, but he's been such a, character as an angry teenager the last couple years, and everything is you kind of want him to be okay and everything else, but there's just been too much with the storyline about Venom being separated from Dylan, put on Mary Jane, and so forth. And of course, there is some parts here where Dylan basically is on the run. I mean, he goes to the sewers, he's injured, he's not thinking of using the tricks correctly. So it kind of makes him, who was very resourceful in the all new Venom a couple years ago, not be so resourceful now, especially after what happened with Venom War. I feel like Venom War kind of really threw his character apart after they were kind of doing something Istrian with him. The cliffhanger is interesting when Carnage completely separates from Eddie, of course, so he won't survive, and of course joins with Torment, making the new Torment Carnage, which is actually a pretty actual cool design. And I'm actually seeing how this goes. I mean, I'm going to give this issue honestly a solid B. There's not much to it besides the fact that Carnage double crossing Eddie and of course bonding with Torment. We still don't know who Torment is, and the force is the death of Paul. Those are actually the biggest highlights of this issue, outside some great artwork by Gomez here. It continues that B part here, and the fact is we only got three issues left, and this is all over end of the month here, and we really don't know what Torment is or what the spirals are and what the full plan is. That's being point is, it feels like it's been pushed off. but this issue is still pretty enjoyable to read despite what happens in the book. So that's all I have to say on that. And with that note, everybody else, I hope everybody is doing well. And of course, check us out over on our various channels, from Discord to our websites to our YouTube channels, our podcasts, and of course, Instagram and other social media platforms. And for more information, everybody does check us out at SpidermanCrawlspace.com for more of your Spider-Man information, news, reviews, like the awesome other ones that hap up here with us every single week. And on that note, everybody, I'll see everybody later on the Crawl Space.